when I was coming up professionally, record companies controlled everything. And a lot of record companies had a lot of things, you know, that people need, like houses and cars and stuff. So like they'll find someone who's young. And if you ever notice, almost all of the artists that are chosen
are much younger.
They're very young.
Yeah.
They're very young. Why are they young? They're young because they don't particularly care too much for money. All they want is the fame.
Right.
Because they don't have to pay mortgage, they don't have to pay for cars, they don't have to pay for all that kind of stuff, you know. And they'll say, well, where are you living now? Well, I'm living with, you know, my mama and them. Hey, Marty, come over here. Give me the keys.
Marty got it all.
Yeah, you're living in Bel Air.
Right.
Here's the keys.
Don't mind if I do.
Right, yeah. All of a sudden, you knock on the door. You'll answer the door, and here's some 65-year-old man. Hey, baby, let me in. And you're like, who are you?
Who are you?
You're like, oh, you don't know me? Yeah, well, you know, this is my house. I work at the studio. You know, I'm a top executive.
Wow.
You know, and I want to do some things with you.
Wow.
You mean for me? No. With you.
This is Fya Side Chats, and I'm here with the one, the only, Mr. Nolan Shaheed. And he is such a blessing. He's going to be talking with us today, and just basically on how we can navigate the music industry as artists, and how he's done it and is continuing to do it. And so I'm just super excited. We're going to jump right along in here. Thank you so much for being on here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And so first, I want to just ask you, who were some of your musical influences when you were starting out? And how did they inspire your style and approach?
Okay, my first great musical influence was my trumpet teacher. His name was Bob Ritholler. And he was a great influence on my life, not only on the trumpet, but just life in general. But he really got me going, and he really believed in me, and he told me that I had the talent to go as far as I wanted to go if I do it the right way. So I really appreciate what my trumpet teacher, Bob Ritholler, did. And I had another teacher. Seems like all my influences were teachers.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's how it's supposed to be. You know, we pour into the youth, we pour into each other, and
that's
then
right.
It shows how important, you know, just having those influences on your life can go ahead and impact somebody, especially as a youth.
Yes.
I'm guessing you were like, how old were you then?
I started playing the trumpet, I was 12 years old. Before that, I played the violin, but I think I wasn't too good. I think I kind of sucked on the violin.
That's crazy. I started off with the violin too. I actually played violin for like 5 years, and I was my instrument is my voice. Okay,
that's good. And you do it very well too.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you know, it's crazy. You dabble in different things, but then you find your instrument.
Yeah,
and so that is so cool. Like connection.
That's right.
So you've worked with some incredible artists, especially as the music director for some artists like Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder. That is so incredible. That's so crazy. How did those early experiences shape your understanding of the music industry? And are there any stories or lessons you've learned from your time working with them? Yes,
I guess my first big gig I ever had was with Aretha Franklin, and I think that was in like 1972 or 73, and that was great. But it was just one gig. We went to play the Cool Jazz Festival in San Diego, and came back. And at that time, I was teaching school.
Wow.
And I was a high school chemistry teacher, and you know, teachers don't make a lot of money. And when they paid me after that gig, I decided, this is what I want to do.
You're like, this is this.
Yeah, I quit teaching, and I've been playing trumpet professionally ever since. But I've been very fortunate. I did a lot of little gigs for the next year or two, but my first great gig was with Marvin Gaye. And I think that was in like 74, I think. And a guy named Leslie Drayton was the musical director, and he had hired me to play trumpet, and we did a lot of good gigs all over the world. And then Leslie decided to move on, and then Marvin wanted me to be the musical director.
Wow.
And so he had me being the musical director, and I learned a lot from Marvin, a lot. It was my first time as a musical director for someone of that magnitude, and it was great. Just watching him work and seeing how he does things, was a great influence on me.
How did that feel? Because I know, like, sometimes when you get an opportunity to kind of work in, like, with a person of that magnitude or something like that, you might get something like an imposter syndrome. Like, did you ever experience that? Because, like, you are bad, especially on that trumpet. He's about to play a little something for us later. But did you ever kind of experience that? Because I know, like, a lot of artists may experience, like, oh my God, am I good enough? Can I, when I get this opportunity, is this something I can do? Like, you know what I mean? Did you experience that in that moment, or were you just ready?
Not at all, not at all. One thing that I had mentioned, my trumpet teacher was very good in preparing me for stuff. And my trumpet teacher was very good at telling me that you have to be perfect at all times. When you step out there, you have to be perfect. And no matter what the people around you are doing, it doesn't make any difference. Make sure that you are the best. So when I got with Marvin Gaye and started writing the music and hiring the musicians and doing what I did, I was definitely prepared. I was very ready.
Amen.
And it was good. It was good for me, but it was good for everybody else too, because I think I was a pretty good musical director.
I'm already knowing you were.
But I did my best, and I wanted to do really good for Marvin, because he was like an idol of mine. And at that time, I was in the studios. I was playing trumpet in the studios in Hollywood. I was doing a lot of motion picture and television, and I was doing records and stuff. And so I was definitely prepared. I was there.
That's so crazy, because the last person that I spoke to, he was saying that when you stay ready, you don't have that sense of imposter syndrome, or you don't have that sense of, oh, I don't think I can do this. You know what I mean? So, and we're getting that same thing from you. So that is such a gem. Like, just making sure when we stay ready, we stay prepared.
Well,
you know who you are.
I stay ready, so I don't have to get ready.
Exactly. Exactly. So I know that you were also a part of the Sweet Baby Blues Band.
Yes.
So what was it like being a part of that, and how did that influence your career path?
Well, Jeannie and Jimmy Cheatham and the Sweet Baby Blues Band. Jimmy Cheatham was a trombone player. He played with Duke Ellington.
That is so great.
And he played with a lot of people, but that was a great thing that he had done. And Jeannie was his wife, and so she was a good singer. And she was a great singer and a great piano player. And so he put together a bunch of guys. And it's funny, because I had done a lot of stuff. By the time the 90s came about and I started playing with Jeannie and Jimmy Cheatham, I had, my career was like at the height of its peak. And I had done a lot of studio work and stuff. And then one day I was listening to the radio, and Jeannie and Jimmy were being interviewed on K-Jazz.
Wow.
And it might have been KBCA at that time, I can't remember. Anyway, it's the same station. And I was thinking, wow, I'd like to play in that band. And 2 weeks later, I got a call from Jeannie.
Look at God.
Yeah, and she put me on the phone with Jimmy, and Jimmy says, our trumpet player was Snooky Young, and he can't do it any longer, but he recommended you. And I said, wow, because see, Snooky Young's one of the baddest trumpet players that ever came, in the studios. He was just a great trumpet player.
Right.
And so he's a good friend of mine. And so for him to acknowledge and to recommend me was great. And so I played with Jeannie and Jimmy for a long time. It was great. I really enjoyed that. That was, when I think back of all the bands I played with, jazz bands, that was the most fun. We had a very good camaraderie. I think there was 8 of us in the band, and we all loved each other.
That is so cool. It's always nice working in an environment, especially as an artist. You know, you collaborate with so many different people, so many different, personalities.
Yeah.
And so it could get like, you know, a little overbearing sometimes, but it's always nice when you're working in an environment with other people where you can just vibe with. I feel like the music even comes out better.
Yeah.
It's like you're feeding off of each other's energy, the harmonies and different things like that. Because, you know, when you have like a little bit of contention or strife, you're like, man, I'm not trying to work with this person no more. So when you have that, that's so cool. It's so cool to hear. As someone who's been a top studio musician ever since like 1974, what do you think has been the key to maintaining a successful and long-lasting career? And also, how do you stay relevant and in demand in an ever-changing industry? And what kind of advice would you give to other artists about staying adaptable?
Okay, wow, that's about 4 questions.
I'm sorry.
No, but it's cool. They were all related.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the studio work is different from everything else.
Right.
It's completely different because it's very demanding. It's changed a lot. But when I first started working in the studios, it was very demanding. You go into the studio, and there were a lot of studios in Hollywood. I mean, a lot of them. It's not just people think it was just ABC and CBS and Capitol Records and all that. No, there are a lot of studios there.
Right.
And you go to a studio via a contractor. A contractor will call you up in the morning and say, hey man, Thursday I got a gig for you at CBS, and it's at 9 o'clock. You can't be late. You have to be prepared. You can't be sick. You can't, you know, you have to go in there and do it. You walk in and pass out the music, and you play it. You know, you don't rehearse, you know.
Right.
You run through it maybe once, maybe twice at the most, and then they roll the tape, and then you play it. Now, you got to be ready to be able to play. You can't make any mistakes, can't make any notes. And if you do make a couple of mistakes, that's probably going to be it for you in terms of your career.
Wow.
You don't get a second chance.
Wow.
You know, and even if you mess up and you do better, they still won't call you because they can't take a chance. I remember doing a session. It was in Hollywood. It was on studio on Wilcox. So we were there and we were playing. It was an orchestra, and I can't remember who was conducting. And it was for I think a television show. And we were playing, and all of a sudden the conductor stopped. He said, "Piano, look at what you got at bar 48." And the piano player said, and he started conducting again. And he said, "Piano, look what you got at bar 48."
Ooh.
And the piano says, "Okay." So he started again, and then he stopped.
Oh no.
And he mentioned for the contractor to come over. Now see, every hour every 50 minutes we take a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
So after 50 minutes is over, the contractor says, 10! And that means everybody takes a 10-minute break. You go out and smoke cigarettes if you want to smoke cigarettes. You can eat something if you want to eat, but you got to be back in your seat at 10 o'clock. So at 12 o'clock, though, he says lunch, and that's an hour break. So the conductor motioned over to the contractor. The contractor came over. He said, contractor says, lunch! Well, it was only,
wasn't lunch yet?
It was only 10 o'clock. So we knew something was going on.
Yeah.
You know. So we took a break, came back an hour later, and everybody was in place
Except the
piano player. Yeah, there was a guy named Ron Coleman who was in his seat.
Yeah.
And Ron Coleman was a black piano player who had just gotten in town. We didn't know who he was.
Right.
And back in those days, they didn't use a lot of blacks on recording dates, on the motion pictures and television dates. You know, they used it was about 1% of us.
Wow.
And so Ron Coleman, we were saying, oh no, they got someone that we don't know. I hope he's good. Ron Coleman looked at the music and
tore that thing.
Tore it up, you know. And ever since then, he's been like one of the cats.
Yeah.
You know? But that's how demanding that it was back then in the studios. Okay, it's changed a lot because nowadays.
I was just about to ask.
We used to do the Grammys and the Academy Awards and all that kind of stuff because it was with an orchestra. You know, now you got a guy with a turntable. He makes all the money.
Right.
You know? It ain't like it used to be.
Right.
But the main thing is that whatever situation that you're in, you got to be definitely prepared. If you're the guy with the turntable on some records and your gig is to provide music that way, then you got to be the best guy with the turntable on records, you know, in the state. Because if not, you're not going to make it. So see, the most important thing is that no matter what genre you're in, no matter what situation you're in, you got to be completely prepared to kill. You got to kill it.
Right.
You got to kill it. You got to make people say, "Who is this guy?"
Right.
You know, this guy is really killing it. Because if you don't, you're just like the whole 1,000 other people who want to be in that situation. I guess it's kind of like being in the NBA in basketball.
Right.
You know, they have a draft every year. I don't know how many people they pick for the NBA. I guess 30. But but there are thousands, scores of thousands, who believe that they deserve to be in the NBA, you know, and they all aspire to be in the NBA, and they can dunk, they can do all this kind of stuff, but everybody can do all that stuff. But there's just a few of them, just a very few who make that cut, who can do it well enough that people say, well, this guy should be here. I want to pick this guy. And that's how it is in music or in anything that you do, but particularly music, because everybody thinks they can sing. And everybody thinks they can play the guitar. And everybody can play piano. And everybody goes to church and has people hollering and screaming and crying and stuff, you know. But there's a few who are special. And they demand that their presence be acknowledged.
Right.
And that's what you got to be, because if you're not, you won't make it.
Right.
You will never, ever make it.
So when you say there's a few that are special, how do you, is that kind of like, because a lot of people will say, oh, well, you need a niche to be special. You need a gimmick to be special. And I feel like, you know, even in the music industry nowadays, that's what you see. You see a lot of gimmicks. You see a lot of niches for people to kind of differentiate themselves from the crowds. What would you consider something that makes that artist special? That extra oomph? And because I know what you're talking about. There's just certain people they walk in the room and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what is that to you? What do you think that is?
I'm gonna go back to Marvin Gaye. When I was with Marvin Gaye, a couple of times he had gotten rid of some of the musicians or some of the singers, and he wanted new ones. So it was my gig to get new singers. Now I gotta have a singer. This is Tuesday, but we're going on the road on Friday.
Right.
So I got 3 days to make sure they know all of the songs and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So what I would do, I would put the word out. I'm auditioning for background singers for Marvin Gaye. I need 2 boys and 2 girls. Okay. And so the word goes out, and so I did the audition in Marvin's studio. Now Marvin's studio was a big room, and he had a small room to the side. So all these people, 100 people, were in the big room waiting to be auditioned. And I was in the small room by myself. And so I would call the people one at a time. And I would say, sing something for me. And there's no accompaniment, there's nothing. You know, just sing for me. Well, what do you want me to sing? Just impress me. Sing whatever you can sing that will impress me.
Right.
Well, I just don't know what to sing. Okay, thank you. Next. The next person would come in, and I say, impress me.
Right.
Well, I'm kind of nervous. Okay. Next. You know, and I went through all that until I found 4 who had that thing. And when they come in, you can tell that they have been, in their minds, this might be their first gig, but in their minds, they slept this. They dreamt about being on stage with Marvin Gaye or Stevie Wonder or somebody. They dreamt it. So when they came into the room, you can see they're ready. They can't wait to sing for me. They can't wait to show me what they got.
Right.
And when they start singing, I see the smile on their face and I see the glory in their eyes, and those are the ones that I would choose. Now some of those sucked.
Wow.
Some of them believed erroneously that they could do it.
Right.
But they had something. So you have to screen out the ones that really have it from the ones that think they have it but don't. And the ones that really have it kind of know.
Yeah.
But it's a thing whereas if you have it, then you can see it in someone else because he's just like you.
Yeah.
You know? And so the gimmick thing is cool, but I guess it depends on what you're doing, you know,
Right.
because now the gimmick is sex.
Yeah.
So now when you audition a female vocalist, she got things sticking out and she's trying to impress you with things that have nothing to do with the music.
Right.
And if you hire her, you'll get fired because she ain't no good, you know? And so like, you know, the gimmick thing only works for certain situations.
Right.
But never count on a gimmick to get you a gig. If you want to be the top, if you want to be out there, you got to have it.
Right.
You got to do whatever it takes. I'll give you an example, because we were just talking about the Olympics, right?
Yes, we were. Yes,
Okay.
we were.
So check this out. And this doesn't mean stop the camera. Check this out. Okay, now I want you to do that with me. Now you're too slow. Okay, do it. Wait, I'm gonna do it one more time. I've been practicing it, so I got the timing perfectly. Very good, very good. Okay, now what does that represent? Okay, so in the Olympics there was the 100 meters, right? 100 meter dash. Okay, the Olympic final. Okay, 100 meter dash, fastest man in the world. Okay. That first clap represents when the first man crossed the finish line. Olympic champion. He's the world champion. He's the best in the world. He's going to be making millions of dollars this year because he's going to have endorsements.
Right.
You know? The first clap is when he crosses the finish line. He's now got a gold medal. He's got everything he wants. Televisions, interviews, radio, magazine covers, everything. He could do whatever he wants because he's the first guy to cross that line. Okay. There's 8 people in the finals. 8 people. Okay, he's the first one. That second clap, what does that represent? Remember, there's 8 people. So the second clap, you know, the second person, third person.
The second person, yeah.
Okay, good.
That
Second
passes
person.
through.
Right, okay, yeah, right, okay. It's not the second person. That second clap is the last person.
Really?
The last person who crossed the finish line crossed a tenth of a second behind the first person. That's a tenth of a second.
Wow.
That's exactly a tenth of a second. You had 8 people
Wow.
from between the first clap and that last clap. The first person has his whole life changed. He's going to be rich for the rest of his life unless he blows it.
Right.
The last person, man, what happened to you, man? Did your block slip? Are you not feeling well? No one knows his name. No one knows what country he came from. No one knows nothing about him. You know, he'll not ever go down history as being nothing.
Right.
He was that far away. But see, here's the thing. Most people think I can be between there. You know,
Yeah.
8 people, I could do that.
Right.
No, it takes so much to be between that first clap and that second clap. See, when you are out on a date, you know, with your girlfriend if you're a guy, and you know you're taking her out having pizzas, and then you take her out and you have a little wine, and you get a little drunk, you know. The first guy, is training. He's practicing. He's not eating pizzas. You know, he's not drinking wine. You know,
Right,
he's
right.
taking care of himself because he understands that everybody's coming.
Right.
You know, they'll be there. But it's me. I got to be the one. I got to be the one. This means too much for me. And if it doesn't mean that much to you, you'll be that second clap. So it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with whatever you're into. It seems like it's very close,
Yeah, but it's not.
but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not close at all.
Wow,
Check
that is
this out.
such a good analogy.
Check this out.
Ooh,
Okay, you know what that is?
That's too far.
yeah. That second clap is the first girl.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Sha'Carri Richardson.
Wow.
It's
Fastest woman?
Fastest woman, fastest man. It's only a second.
Yeah.
It's only 1 second. Everybody in the world thinks, man, I'm a man. I can, you know, come in second behind the fastest. No, Sha'Carri Richardson is faster than 99.9% of all the men in the world.
Literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Literally.
You know, men just can't run that fast. You know, so it takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of devotion to be that first clap. And if you want to be that first clap, you got to do that, and you can't make it unless you do that first clap, unless you have a gimmick. You know, and the gimmick only lasts for a little while.
Right.
Because I can tell you a lot of sexy women that made it for about 15 minutes, and then that was the end of that.
Right.
Guys who think they got it going on, I got it going on with the ladies. When I say it's the ladies, just, 15 minutes
they
later,
just clock on.
15 minutes later, man, they ain't got nothing.
They ran away.
Yeah, ladies will run away because you ain't got it, brother. You ain't got it, man.
Right.
You know, and then you always hear about the people who aren't that beautiful, but who really got it going on. You know, and I can name a lot of them, but I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But anyway, so that's the point about being prepared. You got to stay ready, so you don't have to get ready.
So that's what then is what you're saying that makes that person special. That's the something that's special.
Yeah, that's
that preparedness, that hunger, that drive, that I know who I am.
Right.
I'm about to blow it out the water. Can't nobody else touch me type situation. And it's not even something that people say. It's something that they exude.
That's right. That's right. And you can see it if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a word right there. So we know a gimmick is only gonna last a little while.
Right.
You gotta have that oomph. That hoopla, that's something that makes you special. He just broke down exactly what that means. Okay, so what do you think, as we steer away into like a different kind of subject, what do you think are the biggest misconceptions that new artists have about the industry, and how can they avoid common pitfalls?
Okay. I think the first pitfall is you always hear about a person's rise to fame. You know, I was in a coffee shop drinking some coffee, and a guy came in and said, "You are the one. You are the one. I got to have that face." Right. And then now I'm the world's greatest model.
Right.
You know, you always hear that. You know, or I was singing in church, and little did I know that the head of this big record company was in that church, and he heard me, and he's like, "I got to have that woman." Well, see, that comes a lot of times. It happens a lot of times. But most of the time,
it doesn't. It's not how it works.
Yeah, it's like the NBA. You know, like you just graduated from college. You want to be in the NBA, and no, they ain't picking you. No, you know, there's 150,000 people who want to be in there, and you're one of those 150,000 people. So it doesn't really work like that.
Right.
And if it does, you know, if someone hears you and you're like really good and you're really prepared, and they pick you up and you do it. It's very rare. It's very rare, and you're very fortunate, and you should praise God, because it's a thing that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
But if it does happen, there's some pitfalls that you have to be aware of. And one of the pitfalls is, I guess I can be frank.
Yes,
okay.
Please do.
And you can edit it if you have to. Okay. So, but this is how it works. When I was coming up professionally, record companies controlled everything, and a lot of record companies had a lot of things, you know, that people need, like houses and cars and stuff. So like they'll find someone who's young, and if you ever notice, almost all of the artists that are chosen
are much younger.
They're very young.
Yeah.
They're very young. Why are they young? They're young because they don't particularly care too much for money. They're out of high school or maybe first year of college, and all they want is the fame.
Right.
Because they don't have to pay mortgage, they don't have to pay for cars, they don't have to pay for all that kind of stuff. You know, they want their girlfriends to see them up there, or their boyfriends to see them up there, and that's what's important. So you get someone who's very, very young, and they're not reading the contract like someone who's older, you know.
Right.
So like, you know, you're 25 years old, and it's more difficult than it is if you're 19 years old.
Right.
Okay, so record companies always have stuff. So they'll sign you up, and they'll say, "Oh man, you're really good, you know," and you say, "Oh, thank you," and they'll say, record company, how'd you get down here? You say, "Well, you know, I drove down with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, or I drove down, you know, I took a cab or whatever, you know, you have a car?" "Well, no, not really exactly." Hey, Marty, come over here. Yeah. Give her the keys. And here's the keys to a Lexus.
I'm like, what?
And you're like, wow, man, you know. And then that's your car.
Wow,
When you sign with us, you know, you could drive a car. Maybe it's a Porsche. You know, it's a nice car, you know. And they'll say, well, where are you living now? Well, I'm living with, you know, my mama and them. Hey, Marty, come over here. Give her the keys.
Marty got it all.
Yeah, you're living in Bel Air.
Right.
Here's the keys.
Don't mind if I do.
Right, yeah. So you say, man, really? Oh, man, this is great, man. This is great. I'm living in Bel Air. I'm driving a Porsche. This is good, you know?
Right.
So then the first thing you do, you start having parties, and all your girlfriends are there, you know, and you say, yeah, girl, this is my house. This is, yeah, girl, this is my car. And everybody's impressed, you know, and everything is really good, you know, and everything is doing good. All of a sudden, you knock on the door, and you'll answer the door, and here's some 65-year-old man. Hey, baby, let me in. And you're like, who are you? You're like, oh, you don't know me? Yeah, well, you know, this is my house. I work at the studio. You know, I'm a top executive.
Wow.
You know? And I want to do some things with you.
Wow.
You mean for me? No. With you.
Wow.
Right now.
Wow.
And you're like, well, I can't do that. I've got a boyfriend. He won't know nothing. I won't tell him. You gonna tell him? Well, I can't do that. You living in my house. You driving my car.
Wow.
You know? So then you have a choice. And you say, well, wow, I don't want to do it with this old man.
This is what's attached to.
But if I don't, all my girlfriends saw me in this house. They came to the party. I'll be disgraced. Well, maybe I'll do it this one time. You know, see, that's a problem that you got to watch out for, because nothing comes without some type of consequence. That's why God invented the Bible.
Go read that.
Because it's full of those type of examples for you to try to avoid.